I'd like to call the January 6th Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Our first order of business is the invocation by our Interim County Manager, Ms. Sharon Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you and conduct the business of Onslow County. Lord, we thank you for the year that has passed and the many blessings you have showered upon us. As we set goals and priorities for the year ahead, let us go forward with great hope that all things can be possible. May all we do this day bring you honor and glory. Now, with deep respect and reverence for the faiths, beliefs, and traditions of those gathered here today, hear us in a moment of silence. Amen.
Now we have our Pledge of Allegiance by Assistant County Manager, Mr. Ben Warren.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome everyone tonight. I'd like to introduce Sheriff Hans Miller, our elected official that's here tonight to serve as part of the sentry and protection for our meeting. Thank you, Sheriff, for being here. We ask all in attendance to please set your cell phone to silent or vibrate mode. The board offers the public two opportunities to speak during the meeting. Comments during the first public comment period should be limited to 3 minutes each and must be directly issue-oriented with the agenda item for this particular meeting. The second public comment period is at the end of the meeting and may be on any issue upon which the Board of Commissioners has control. During the second public comment period, citizens can address the board for up to 5 minutes each. Citizen speakers will be acknowledged in the order in which they signed up to speak and will address all comments to the board as a whole and not to one individual commissioner. Speakers will address the board from the speaker's podium at the front of the room and will begin their remarks by stating their name and their address. Discussion between speakers and members of the audience will not be allowed. Public comment is not intended to require the board to answer any impromptu questions. Speakers are expected to be civil in their language and presentation. Any comments where the primary purpose is to promote a business or a candidacy shall not be allowed. In accordance with the board's adopted rules and procedures, commissioners shall reserve responses, if any, for the commissioner comment period on the agenda, and that's at the end of the meeting. With no other items being considered separately.
Can I go ahead and make a motion, please? Motion 1, motion to remove item 2G, Onslow County Public Library additional closure.
Second.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye. Approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay. We'll move on now to 3, which would be public comment section. Do we have anyone signed up for items on the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, we do not have anyone signed up for the first public comment session.
We have a 4 would be presentations, and I'll turn that over to the interim county manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. We do have a proclamation this evening. I will read it into the record. State of North Carolina, County of Onslow, proclamation in support of National Radon Action Month. Whereas radon is a colorless, odorless, reactive gas that may threaten the health of our citizens and their families. And whereas radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer in the United States and is the leading cause of lung cancer in non-smokers. And whereas radon is found in 1 in 15 homes across the United States having elevated radon levels, and whereas any home may have elevated levels of radon even if neighboring homes do not, and living in a home with an average radon level of 4 picocuries per liter of air poses a similar risk of developing lung cancer as smoking half a pack of cigarettes a day. And whereas testing for radon is simple and inexpensive, and radon problems can be fixed. And whereas Onslow County government, the U.S. Surgeon General, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, North Carolina Radon Program, and the North Carolina Advisory Committee on Cancer Coordination and Control support efforts to encourage homeowners to test their homes for radon, have elevated levels of radon reduced. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Onslow County Board of Commissioners declares January 2020 as National Radon Action Month, presented this the 6th day of January 2020 by the Onslow County Board of Commissioners. And at this time, representatives from the Onslow County Health Department will come to the front to accept the proclamation. The chairman has requested that Commissioner Royce Bennett present the proclamation to the Health Department.
Thank you. In my day job as a realtor, we regularly warn people about radon. It is simple to test for. I believe you can buy the kits at any hardware store. So we'd encourage people to remember what you've just heard about radon gas.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Good evening. Thank you, Commissioners, for this proclamation. We're excited to be a part of the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services Radon Program. And I have with me our new Health Director, Ms. Chrissy Richmond Hoover, who I won't put on the spot tonight to speak, but did want her to have the opportunity to come up here as well. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
The item number 2 was the consent agenda. Is there any items on the consent agenda we have in the backup to item 2 that any commissioner wants removed for discussion at the end of the meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. And that's the one we amended.
Right.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on now to item number 5, which would be rezoning and a public hearing. I'll turn that over to Interim County Manager Sharon Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Tonight we have 2 rezoning cases that we will hear, and the first one is rezoning case PREZ-2019-00006, and I present to you the Director of Planning and Development, Ms. Jessica Rue, who's going to provide the staff introduction and recommendations.
All right, good evening, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners, and Happy New Year. Our first rezoning request this evening is a conditional rezoning, and because it's been a while since we've done a conditional rezoning, I'd like to just take a moment and remind all of you that as you look at this request today, you are permitted to talk about specifics, you are permitted to talk and ask questions about the site plan, and you have several options to do with this rezoning request. You can deny it, you can approve it, and you can approve it with conditions. Staff and the planning board have provided you with some conditions that they're recommending. They are in attachment 1 of your packet, but feel free to modify those or remove some or talk through them, and I'm happy to answer questions on those. Our applicant is also with us this evening, and you may be free to ask him specific development plan questions. This request is to go from 2 zoning districts. They're currently R8M and community business, and the request is to be conditionally zoned community business. This property is owned by Mark and Deborah Lewis. The applicant for this project is Jeb Bradshaw. It involves 3 parcels, and they total about 1.91 acres. We have water service from Manwasa, and individual septic does service this property. They are currently working to update their wastewater permit at this time. Fire service is provided by Turkey Creek, and our traffic counts indicate that this development could be supported. Swan Point Road does not have any data available, but Piru Road and 172 are under capacity here. On the screen in yellow, you will see the proposed parcels to be rezoned to community business conditional. They are in gold. They are surrounded by some R30M, some R8M, and community business. Those districts are more dense than what the project that is being proposed. This is an aerial view. The parcels that are outlined in red are what we're discussing this evening. It's currently used as a boatyard on one parcel or two parcels, and there's a single-family residence existing on the third parcel. This is a site plan. What the applicant is proposing to do is to modify the current marina and boatyard and install some dry stack storage. Currently in R8M is 8,000 square foot lots are required, or 8 units per acre. And this is primarily single-family homes and mobile homes. In community business, those are service-oriented businesses that service the community, and we don't regulate the lot size or the density there. What's being proposed would leave the lot size and density, but the specific permitted uses would be boat sales, repairs and services, boatworks manufacturing, commercial fishing operations, marina, dry stack storage, restaurants, and a seafood market. This is zoned in our future land use plan, our map, and our comprehensive plan as conservation. And the intent of this designation is to identify and protect places of environmental, cultural, or historic value with limited uses. And those uses do include recreation, education, and tourism. There was some discussion at Planning Board, and they felt this was recreation. Also in our comprehensive plan, this is zoned or designated as conservation. And this also has policies that support providing boat access for our community. And so due to those factors, they did feel that this proposed rezoning was reasonable with the attached conditions that are in your attachment 1. They voted unanimously at their meeting on December 5th to recommend approval of this based upon the limitations that are listed in those conditions and other requirements that are imposed through this proposal. So some of the conditions that the Planning Board recommended were that a private agreement be established and recorded on Page Street. That's about 740 feet long by 30 feet wide. And the applicant at the Planning Board was amenable to doing so. Also to prohibit parking on Page Street and to limit it to parking spaces that were on site. And also to have a recombination map recorded with an engineered site plan. So some of those were the highlights of the conversation that came from staff and our Planning Board. And that concludes the staff report. The applicant is here this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Rue. At this time, I will open the public hearing. The applicant, Mr. Jeb Bradshaw, has signed up to speak. If you would like to please approach the microphone at this time.
Hello, Commissioners. Happy New Year. And my name's Jeb Bradshaw. I'm from Pender County, born and raised. Just quick, brief background. I've been in the marina business 20 plus years myself, and in a family marina business for 35 years. I operate a marina dry stack facility like we're proposing to put here in Scotts Hill on Scotts Hill Loop Road. It's in the middle of a neighboring, like a neighborhood, a community. If you would like, I've brought some copies of some pictures that we have of our facility there just to give you an idea what it would look like. Sometimes I know that might help if y'all would like those. I do have copies of those for everyone. Just to show you what the facility would look like. Basically, being in the marina business and you know, seeing this area grow, most everyone we deal with is moving here for our coastal resources. Our access to those resources are limited. The state has not given us a lot of places to put public ramps, launches. They're at capacity generally by early morning, and it's very limited. There's, you know, basically it's a free-for-all down there. With this rack facility, we can handle a large number of boats in a very controlled manner. We have a system we use with an app that handles scheduling, so nobody shows up at the same time. We control kind of the flow in and the flow out. So we're very, very, it's a very coordinated, well-oiled machine when it's running. There again, it's allowing new residents to Onslow County and old residents alike to have easy access to the water. Basically a phone call or a click on your phone, your boat's in the water, you can have it ready to go, and it's taken out and handled for you. Another benefit for the county, it does create jobs. You know, we employ a few people in the off-season. We can employ up to as many as 10 people in the summertime. Also, another point is, you know, when boats are stored in Onslow County, if that person is from Raleigh or whatever other county they're in, when that boat is stored here, Onslow County gets the tax revenue from that vessel being stored in the county. So, you know, we just, for instance, at our facility in Scotts Hill, you know, we have 325 boats. 75% of that is from Hanover County, so Pender County gets all that tax revenue. You know, so we see, you know, a lot of folks from out of town, other counties coming in, you know, to use these facilities, and hopefully that would, you know, be the case here. Try to be brief. If y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I don't want to be long-winded and, you know, over-talk, so just let me know if you got any questions.
Well,
Can't ask.
you still got to do the public hearing.
Yeah, let's wait until the close of the public hearing, and we'll have him come back up for
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
questions, if
Okay,
that's
gotcha. Would y'all
okay.
like those pictures to see what it would look like? Would y'all like those? Or do y'all not need that?
Give them to the
Yes, ma'am,
clerk.
no problem. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw. And if you want to stay on the front row in case they have questions in just a moment. No one else has signed up to speak during the public hearing. I'll make one call to the audience. Would anyone like to speak on this rezoning matter? If you would, please approach the podium at this time. Seeing no one approach, I will now close the public hearing, and at this time, the matter is available for the Board of Commissioners to consider and to ask the questions they'd like to ask.
Now you can ask a question.
Thanks, Dave. I'm going to ask a question that you probably already answered, but I'm not sure if you did.
Sure, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Real simple. What's your business? What is it? What do you do? I see a dock. I see all the boats. I mean, is it a docking facility? Is it a repair facility? Is it like Tideline
The
Marina?
current facility has been a boatyard for as long as I know, over 30-plus years. So they would have a travel lift. They'd pull out, you know, shrimp boats, private vessels, and block them up on the yard, work on them. What we do is we have a rack facility, which, like I said, in these pictures will show you. So basically, your boat is in a storage spot, like it's a metal frame building. It's not enclosed. It doesn't have a roof on it. And you basically, with our system, you punch in an app on your phone and you schedule a launch. So say you would like to be in the water at 10 o'clock. When you show up, your boat is in the water waiting on you, ready to go. So you use the boat for the day. When you come back out, it sends you a text so that your boat is all put away for the day. It's basically a concierge service, I guess you would say, for putting your boat in and out of the water. You don't have to prep your boat, take it to the ramp, wait in line, put it in, hope you can find a parking spot, which I know is an issue down there with the public ramp. Then you don't have to fight the crowds pulling it out. You pull in, we have holding slips, you tie your boat up, get your family off, wash it out. Then we take it out, we rinse it off when we put it back, and then like I said, as soon as we stow that boat in our system, it sends you a text on your phone that your boat's put up for
Robin,
the day.
it's like Dudley's and Casper's, but theirs closed in, but he's using an open facility, what he's
Yes,
got,
sir.
just
Yes, sir.
racks.
Okay.
Like up
Yes,
at
sir.
Atlantic Beach has, I think, or, Beaufort has open racks.
Memorial
Yes, sir.
Beach has them too.
A lot of people are going to that now because fire suppression costs are so high.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Well, before we do that, I want to, we've got three motions that we choose from. We either approve it, disapprove it, or approve it with conditional uses.
Motion to approve,
Would-
as is.
As is. Did I have a second on that?
Does that include the conditions as listed by
Yes,
staff?
the conditions as listed.
No, it don't include, it's got to be conditional use. We approve it with conditional use. Is that the motion we need?
Jessica?
I would recommend approving it with all of the conditions listed in attachment 1.
Yeah.
The conditions are already attached
Yes,
for your staff.
yes.
But we had one that was approved without the conditions, so we had three different
Right.
choices here.
Right, you
Just
don't
wanna be
have to
clear.
include them,
Motion to
but
approve with the
if you'd like
conditions.
to, I would approve it with the attachment 1 conditions.
Gotcha.
And all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Jack.
Good thing about that is we get the personal property tax on the vehicles that's housed here. And that's a win-win for Onslow County. And it's also a win for the people that needs to put their boat in with limited resources now on that. Thank you. I think B is rezoning also for you.
Yes, sir. All right, we have a second rezoning request. This is a traditional rezoning request, so we cannot consider specific site plans on this rezoning request, only all of the uses that would be allowed should the rezoning go through. At that point, we would allow the proper channels of our technical review committee, state permitting, and the planning board make further decisions. This request is to go from RA to residential 10 on property owned by Robert and Carolyn Smith. John Pearson Associates has requested this application, and this parcel totals 125.97 acres. We have water and wastewater available in this area from Onwassa. Northwest Onslow provides fire protection, and our Gum Branch traffic counts here are slightly under capacity. That's not to say you go further south down the road, which you may need to travel to get here, they are at or over capacity. Our current zoning here demonstrates rural agricultural. You can tell in the vicinity, we have some R15 zoning. We are about 2,400 feet north of Quaker Bridge Road and just south of Cowhorn Road. The property has a single-family residence on it, but is otherwise forestry and agricultural land. Our RA district is 20,000 square feet, allows single-family residential, agricultural uses, and other service uses. The requested zoning district would be R10. That is 10,000 square foot minimum lot size, and that equates to about 4 units per acre. And so that is an increase in density from what is there now. Primarily, you're going to see modular and single-family residential out in this district by right. Our future land use map shows this as AF, or agriculture forestry. However, this is very close to medium-density residential. When this map was developed and things were looked at, they looked at what was on the ground in 2008 and 2009 to create these districts. At the time, there was no sewer line out here. At this point in time, would we create a map like this, it would have a larger area in medium-density residential. We have seen about 6 rezonings over the last 9 or 10 months in this area in similar situations. So our comprehensive plan, as I was saying, has this designated as AF, and that is not a consistent corresponding zone with the land use designation. However, our policies support development based on infrastructure, and because of that, the planning board did feel that this deserved a positive recommendation to you all. They had a unanimous vote at their meeting on December 5th. There was one resident who spoke in opposition to this rezoning. He was a neighboring property owner and was concerned about increasing the density with the 2 curves on the road. The planning board also received an email this morning from a separate property owner in the area concerned not only with that, but flooding and environmental concerns. That concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Ms. Rue. At this time, I will open the public hearing. We have, first of all, the representative of the applicants, Mr. John Pierce, who has signed up to speak. Mr. Pierce, if you would approach the podium.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Happy New Year to all, the commissioners and the chairman. On behalf of Mr. Robert Smith and the developer that's looking at purchasing property, I heard there was concern, so this morning I got I don't know if it's proper to hand it out now, but I contacted the MIA appraiser, and I also spoke with Mr. Harry Smith. The concerns was that this rezoning would devalue his property, and similar subdivision that the same developer developed in Sneeze Ferry, right adjoining his property after the development got started, and actually the section is being built now. The property was the tax base was 180, and he just sold, it was a 20-acre tract, and he sold half of the front of it for $500,000. It just closed right at the end of the year. And in my opinion, this new subdivision would definitely not devalue it. I don't think there's been no market study. After speaking with Mr. Harry Smith, he's here, and also, if it's permissible to hand this out, I engaged a MIA appraisal to get their opinion, and their opinion was the same thing, that this would not devalue the property. Is it proper to hand this out now, or?
You can give
Just-
that to the clerk of the board. That
Okay.
would be appropriate. Thank you.
And also, concerning traffic, I do know Gum Branch Road is, right now they're currently planning on realigning the Quaker Bridge Road with Northwest Bridge Road, and that's underway. And also, if you go right up above this road, the Calhoun Road enters at a Y, and it's going to be squared away. In fact, this subject probably requesting a rezone. DOT's already taken part of the frontage for widening, and when we get to the development stage, our plan is that we're going to have to mitigate any impact that we have on the development. So we'll be requested to make some highway improvements along this roadway. And I think there's several values this brings to the county, and one, of course, is the increase in the tax base, and it's also highlights some issues for the land. And currently, Onslow is in need of customers, and if it's developed in R10, we'll be using the Onslow sewer and the county water, and all the roads will be developed to DOT standards, and it creates a lot of jobs and development, and I think it adds value to the neighborhood. And as far as looking at the property, for the environmental, with stormwater, we certainly got to comply with all the state mandated stormwater regulations to treat our stormwater, and of course with erosion control. And also, if you look at the map of it, there's probably in excess of probably 80% or 85% of it's already cleared land, and it'll be converting it, and I'll be here later to answer any questions or any after the public hearing any of the commissioners may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce.
I forgot to mention one thing, and I probably should divulge it. I'll probably, and I don't have anything to hide, I'll probably be involved in the purchase and developing the tract. So I just lay it all on the line, and I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. We also have another citizen who has signed up to speak during the public hearing, Mr. Dennis Burgard of 526 Rock Creek Drive, if you would approach. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for your time tonight. I'm going to speak out against this being rezoned and actually any future rezoning along Gum Branch Road. I live in Rock Creek, and I've been there now for going on 14 years. I've lived in Onslow County for 26 years in Jacksonville. When I first moved here, that was a busy road. It is a main thoroughfare coming from Highway 258 to the busiest part of our city, which is Western Boulevard. It has gone from being busy to being a nuisance to being a hazard. You literally take your life in your own hands these days when you're pulling in and out of subdivisions to get onto Gum Branch Road. Whatever DOT does, unless they turn it into a 4-lane road, widening will not solve that problem. I have a 17-year-old daughter who drives to Jacksonville High School every day and back, goes back and forth to practice, and I'll have another one who'll be driving here real soon. This is the road in this county now that concerns me most about her getting on it and driving. As I prepared to come tonight, I went and took my youngest to school this morning, only to be backed up for 5 miles because of another accident. This has not become a matter of the exception. It has now become a matter of the rule. I can expect that there will be a wreck on Gum Branch Road weekly. This isn't a minor wreck I'm talking about. When people get in wrecks on Gum Branch Road, they're crossing the road, they're flying off the road, there's multiple cars involved, and there are people who are injured.
I think at this point, if DOT is not going to do something to Gum Branch Road to make it usable and to fit the infrastructure that you continually keep approving, I think it's incumbent on you to stop the development. We can't afford to do this anymore. You're looking at 500 homes here, 2 cars per property, that's 1,000 cars. Those folks will be traveling back and forth to Jacksonville on Gum Branch Road because it is the one and the only thoroughfare that will take you from that location into Jacksonville unless you go all the way out to Highway 258, which people do not do. Stateside Elementary did not exist when I was there. Stateside subdivision did not exist. I'm actually kind of surprised to hear there were 6 other rezoning requests approved in such a short period of time because I'm not sure how many homes that would equal to. Stateside, the subdivision has not been built out yet, and that whole area has gotten completely out of control. I'm going to ask that you take a look at this property seriously and consider the impact of another 1,000 cars, plus whatever you've already done, in light of the fact that a couple things aren't happening. DOT is not getting funding as we speak. Furthermore, any plans they have to fix individual roads and any widening does not include additional lanes except for possibly a middle lane, and that's it. That middle lane is nice, but we're dealing with farm equipment that drives up and down this road on a regular basis, people who are driving on scooters, people on bikes, buses because of Stateside Elementary. The rezoning, the redistricting of schools has sent all the people from Rock Creek forward to Jacksonville High School. That means all those people drive in that direction as opposed to going to Richlands. I think you need to take a seriously look at this and get with your sheriff's departments, your highway patrols, and everybody else to look at the number of accidents and look at the people who are being injured along with those accidents before you approve any more subdivisions. It's had nothing to do with these folks. I'm a real estate guy. I love development, but that road has simply been outgrown, and probably just on what you've already approved, that road is going to become even far worse than it is. Adding another 500 homes only is going to exacerbate the problem that currently exists. So I ask you to take a look at this, say no until there's a definitive plan from DOT that can handle the traffic that is currently on that property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burgard. No one else has signed up, but if you would like to speak on rezoning case PREZ-2019-00015, please approach the podium at this time. I'll make one call to the audience. Yes, sir. Please give us your name and address.
Good evening. Thank you. Commissioners, good evening. My name is John Hackett. I live at 6481 Gum Branch Road. I am on the parcel immediately adjacent to the parcel in question and to the north of it. It's a little sliver of triangular property, about 3 acres to the north of that. I thank you for the time to address this, and I am in agreement with the gentleman who spoke before. I sent a letter in this morning, which hopefully has been entered into the record. In that 4-page letter, I outlined in detail my reasons to be opposed to this parcel development, but I want to highlight just a few. And I wanted to start by saying I understand the main reason for this type of rezoning is financial, plain and simple. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I believe in this case, the financial needs of one group, the current owners, should be weighed against the standard of living and the safety concerns of people already living there, people like me. And this development would definitely have a negative financial, but also a safety impact on people that live there. It would change inalterably our current way of life. I'm going to run through just a couple of the concerns that I have. One of the biggest ones is traffic on Gum Branch Road. I live right on Gum Branch Road in a home that was built in 1901. It's a beautiful old plantation home, and I sit about 40 feet off of Gum Branch Road right now. With the easement that was put in place by North Carolina Department of Transportation in 2018, that road is scheduled to get about 10 feet closer to my house. So basically, I've got 18-wheelers pretty much going through my living room right now. 3 days ago, during garbage pickup day, we live on a dangerous curve. I was looking out the front door of my window as garbage was being picked up, and I noticed a blue Blazer passing between the tree that sits in front of my house and my front porch, probably about 10 feet from my front porch, going about 40 miles an hour. The gentleman driving that blue Blazer was texting as he came around the corner of the road at a high rate of speed, did notice the garbage truck, swerved off the road onto my property, almost killed the garbage man, hit our garbage truck, and narrowly missed a tree in front of the house. I wish I could say this is an exception. It's a normal occurrence based on the volume of traffic and the speed of traffic on that road. So the road is already a dangerous road. The particular parcel in question, if you look at the image of the actual parcel, you'll notice the frontage of the property is extremely narrow. So access to a development that could have potentially hundreds of homes is limited to just a couple hundred yards of frontage on a blind turn in a two-lane road where traffic is already too high in volume and too high in speed. I don't understand without some serious other construction projects and or rezoning or eminent domain reasons how access to that property can safely be made on that dangerous turn. It's just not physically possible, and I haven't seen a plan that indicates how that's going to be done. The next concern I have is sustainability and safety inside that entire area as it's affected by hurricanes and natural disasters. I stayed here for Hurricane Florence. I live on a farm. I have farm animals, so I didn't have the luxury of leaving. During Hurricane Florence, for 6 days, the area in question was completely cut off. Gum Branch Road, north and south, Northwest Bridge Road, and Cowhorn Road were all cut off from access. And for 4 days, I watched people drive back and forth trying to find food, gasoline, and or entertainment, adding another 400 or 500 homes in that area, particularly homes that might have children who need medical attention, without any infrastructure improvements to provide access to emergency services, to me is an unwise decision. Again, this is a case where development is exceeding infrastructure capacity. I also outline concerns for geographic and hydrographic impacts on the property based on impacts to drainage and environmental impacts as well. And lastly, outdoor recreation and hunting. And I know people don't generally like to hear that, but that property sits directly in the middle of a semicircular area bounded by rural properties on all sides. Everybody in that area hunts. They also use firearms for their farm protection. I call them villains. Possums, poisonous snakes on my farm. Addition of a residential property next to my property would prohibit me from discharging a firearm on my property due to Onslow County regulations. That's important to me, and that's important to people around me. So there are a lot of negative impacts. I would just ask that the board consider that in light of the fact that, based on my survey, my unscientific survey last night, that there are 1,538 homes currently for sale in Onslow County in that immediate area. There's hardly a housing shortage. There's hardly a need. I would ask you, please, to weigh the considerations of the people that already live there against the considerations of potential future development. Ask you to weigh in our favor, at least until such time as the demand is real and the infrastructure concerns have been met and have been answered so that development can proceed safely. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. I'll make one additional call to the audience if anyone would like to approach the podium. Seeing no one approach, I will now close the public hearing. At this time, the item is available for commissioner discussion, questions, and consideration.
Anybody got questions for the applicant or
Well, I just got a couple of comments real quick. I made a comment in one of the commissioner meetings several months ago, probably more than that. These rezoning things sometimes are boring. You know, let's face it, they're boring. It's a procedure we go through, and I made a comment one time that if someone is willing to come up and speak either for or against it, especially against it, then I was going to give them the honor of listening to what they had to say. And I appreciate the fact that two people came up, two intelligent people, I think, that came up and made approach. I have a problem with Gum Branch Road myself. I've been here since 1990. I don't drive down Gum Branch Road. I really don't. And when my wife comes back from a trip from Eden, North Carolina, I tell her, don't take Gum Branch, especially if you're coming at night, go to the bypass, okay? I don't even ride my motorcycle down Gum Branch Road because it is a dangerous dangerous road to be traveling. There's a lot of curves on it, and people speed on that road. And the fact that you brought some points up that I didn't even consider about the rezoning, making that into a subdivision, yeah, financially it'd be a great gain for Onslow County, but that's not my concern. My concern is the safety and the safety issue of people. Because if I look at this map, there's only one way to get to Jacksonville or to Richlands, and that's Gum Branch Road. And when you get an accident on Gum Branch, and people that have lived here understand this, it's usually not just one or two cars, it's multiple car or multiple vehicle accidents. And when you block that, then the traffic gets worse. And like you said, Dennis, I'd hate it for being my daughter or son that gets into an accident. So some probably are rolling their eyes thinking, Commissioner, you need to be quiet. But no, this makes sense to me. Makes me think because, my job to me as a commissioner is about the safety of our citizens. And looking at this and thinking about what you said, especially you, with that near accident there in your yard, that bothers me. And we can't control the traffic, we can't control the Department of Transportation, but I do agree with you in the sense that we should look to see what they're going to do in terms of either widening it, providing other alternative routes, or whatever it might be. That may take some time. So, but I wanted to thank you guys for bringing that to our attention, or to my attention at least, because it is something that we should seriously consider. Because, I'll say it again, I cannot stand Gum Branch Road. And I think it's a safety hazard, it's a dangerous road, and, like I said, I wouldn't let my wife or my family members drive on that road, even during the daytime, let alone night. So, but thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I'd ask, Ms. Rule, would you be able to speak to the traffic capacity on Gum Branch and that situation, sort of what we've heard tonight?
Sure. As I pointed out earlier, the capacity in this area is slightly under the volume it can hold. However, as was just pointed out, to get up there, there's really only one way, and you're traveling the rest of Gum Branch Road, which is at capacity. And there are plans for 6.4 miles of Gum Branch Road to have a wider shoulder and a turn lane put in. I'm not a traffic professional, so I can't say, yes, that will fix this problem. I'm not sure. So that's my thoughts on the traffic.
Was that
It is a little bit frustrating to have all of these projects put on hold right now without answers on when we'll be moving forward. From a planning professional standpoint, I'll certainly echo that frustration.
was that DOT project one of the ones that's on the back burner still, or was that one of the ones that
This
was
was
brought
one
up?
that was scheduled to happen this year and is now put on hold indefinitely.
Commissioners, can I get your attention? Can Anthony Prince please come up? And he asked me if he could come up, gentlemen. I wasn't putting him on the spot.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Anthony.
evening, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. Regarding Gum Branch Road, I agree with you, it's a problem. And, as part of the MPO and as part of the transportation decision-making of our community, we're working on projects to help address both the safety as well as the capacity issues. The biggest problem right now is that we're in a reactive position. And that's a very unfortunate place to be in, especially with the DOT funding situation the way that it currently is. And if you're not aware, it's gone from a situation where DOT had about $2 billion worth of fund balance in their reserves, and now they're barely holding at about $300 million worth of fund reserves. So projects that we currently have scheduled for the area, one, as Jessica mentioned, was to basically widen the existing alignment of Gum Branch. We considered it a safety project. It's essentially to add shoulders, straighten some curves, realign some intersections, add some traffic signals where needed. But again, that's a safety project. That's not going to address the capacity needs that we currently have out there. Regarding the traffic count that you saw, the volumes that are being shown are what we call annual average daily traffic. So that's pretty much the lowest volume that you could experience on that roadway at any point throughout the year. At least that's the way that I look at it. We see seasonal fluctuations of traffic volumes out there that exceed 20,000 vehicles a day. So that's why the numbers that Jesse is showing is different than maybe what the commissioners and the folks in the audience are seeing on a daily basis when they actually travel the road. So what we call the U4906 project was scheduled to be constructed this year. That has been deferred until next year. It is still going to go, but it'll be probably 2021 before it's under construction. We do have two other projects, and I came prepared with maps. Thank you to Deanna.
Thank you, sir.
my colleague who saw these questions coming and brought maps with us. So there are 2 other projects that are scheduled for Gum Branch Road, U 5793A and B. Those are 4-lane divided roadway projects, basically going from Jacksonville on out to, let's see, I forgot here. Ramsey Road, or I'm sorry, Country Club Boulevard. So right out there to Rock Creek. Those will be 4-lane divided projects. The unfortunate thing about those is that they're not going to be constructed until 2029. So that's a ways out. Good news, bad news. So good news is we've got some improvements on the way. That is committed funding, should start next year. Bad news is what we really need, the 4-lane divided highway, is going to be a while. And I've got some information here, Julie, I'll give it to you. It has information about those projects as well as others.
And what Anthony was saying, there was, I think, and Anthony correct me, there was 25 projects that I sit on the tag along with Royce Bannett, both of us sit on the board with Anthony. I think there was 25 projects and we lost 21.
Something like that.
Like those
I get
numbers.
lost in the numbers because they change all the
I know
time.
the
but-
dollar amount, but I was just trying to think of the projects. And these are a lot of projects that would have helped Onslow County and the city of Jacksonville to the point
right.
where we'd be able to move traffic. But now we got a problem because DOT might not have the money.
Hopefully that's changing, but I think it's going to change slowly. The good news is that one of those projects that is moving forward is that 4906 project that's going to go essentially the entire length of Gum Branch Road all the way to Richlands.
Does that help the board some? Anthony asked me a while ago, he texted me, could he come up and talk? I brought him up. Thanks, Anthony.
I didn't mean to insert myself.
No,
was
sir,
just
I
hoping-
appreciate it. I appreciate
hoping
you
to
inserting
provide some
yourself.
clarification and get Jesse off the hook. How about
When it
that?
comes to traffic control and all this stuff and all the roads and everything, you're the guru.
Yes, he is. So adding the turning lane and widening is pretty much what they've done to 53 in the last year or so. Sorry, Anthony. I'll wait for you to get all the way back.
I thought we were finished. Can you repeat the question?
Said, so what Jessica was talking about was widening, adding the turning lane is basically the same thing that they did to Highway 53 over the last year or so, just a little wider for a turning lane. isn't it?
This project's going to be a little bit different. So the 3-lane section was their old approach to improving capacity and safety on 2-lane roads. They don't really do that anymore. So what we're going to end up doing with Gum Branch Road is we're going to add 5-foot paved shoulders on both sides. We're going to widen the lanes so that they're a little bit easier to navigate. Going to straighten out some of those severe curves and realign some of the intersections as needed. One of those being Calhoun and I believe Northwest Bridge Road is another one. So.
Does anybody else have any questions for Anthony before he goes back?
I'll let him sit down first.
Can we sit on the front row?
Sit down real quick and we'll ask you.
You better sit on the front row. Any other discussion?
I guess I'd ask the applicant, Mr. Pierce, if he'd like to address, there was a specific question that was raised by some of the public about what the entrance to this would look like and how that would address the safety on this turn, and if you've got a response to that, I'd like to hear it.
We've got enough property. I've already chatted and had conversation with DOT. We're certainly going to have to provide left turn lanes and right turn lane to accommodate and mitigate the traffic inflow. And actually, we got enough. There's a lane there. We would also have 2 entrances to the one. It's called Roberts Lane that's been there. That's to the right of it, so it would be developed with 2 accesses to it. And I'm aware of, in fact, I think that this is probably one of the curves going to be straightened out because there's already been some right-of-way dedicated to the DOT. And a concern was issued as far as texting and driving. I'm telling you, that's a problem on the interstate. There's probably more people killed by texting than there is drunk driving years ago. So I know the North Carolina laws, they passed a law finally to give people tickets for texting and driving, but there ain't a whole lot you can do about stupid. It's just a part of the deal. When you go to texting and driving, that's about as stupid as it gets. But that does happen. And I would agree. In fact, a group of us went for years and years to Raleigh back and forth to get Piney Green to where it's at. And it's just something that's a working effort, but I think that everybody's aware Gum Branch does need improvements, and I'm well aware of that myself. Thank y'all.
Any other?
You know, this is a difficult, it's a difficult situation to be in. I drive Gum Branch Road when I have to, and I know it's difficult. There is a need for houses in Onslow County. We're growing, and there's a bit of a shortage of housing, and it's going to get worse over the next couple of years. We're going to continue to grow, and I don't know that we can put off all development on Gum Branch Road for 10 years because of the Gum Branch Road. I hope that the safety issues that'll be addressed in the next year or two will help. I mean, this project, if they get it permitted, would be probably several years before it got into a real development situation.
Is there, I don't know if this is appropriate to ask, Mr. Pierce, is there a timeline with the purchase and the development of the track?
Well, certainly, first off, I want to clear something up. The property could be developed as is, but the problem is it doesn't merit the sewer and cost effective, because to really develop the property under the highest best use, you definitely need to utilize and watch the sewer. But it'd take a year or longer to get all the permits. And then you're probably talking about a phased development of getting actual construction done. You're probably talking about 6, 8 months to a year to get that done. So I would think that you probably, before there was a home built, you're looking 1.5 years, 2 years before the sticks and bricks will be finished in order for a house to be produced. So if that answers your question.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Any further, gentlemen? I entertain a motion, one way or the other. Your pleasure.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
No.
Okay, we have 4 to 5 to 2. Is that what we had? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, I've got a request from one of our board members that we need to take a short break. Thank you. I'd like to call the Commissioner meeting back to order. We'll move on now with item 6, general items. Turn that over to interim county manager, or Jessica Root.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that resolution is going to go to Ms. Jessica Rue, who is going to present, and I believe Mr. Anthony Prince is also going to help her on that one.
I'm not sure where the presentation is. Mr. Prince is here this evening. We are requesting a resolution of support to expand the MPO boundary, and he is here to present the benefits of doing that. I will say that all of our municipalities within Onslow County have passed resolutions supporting this effort, and Anthony Prince will be called up momentarily to give his presentation and answer any questions you may have. So back to Mr. Prince.
Commissioners, thank you again for the opportunity to be here and talk about transportation in Onslow County. As you recall, we've talked about the potential for expanding the MPO boundary several times. And those discussions, of course, occurred during the joint sessions with the City Council. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a few minutes. But before that, I wanted to just give a brief overview of what the MPO is, what we do, and some of the benefits of being part of our organization. So the Jacksonville MPO is a federally funded and mandated transportation planning organization for the urbanized area of Onslow County, primarily centered around Jacksonville. What we do is we look at the transportation network, not only roads, but buses, aviation, et cetera, and we look at the current condition of the infrastructure, project that out into the future, and identify projects and various initiatives to help improve the network so that we can overcome things like we just talked about on Gum Branch Road. Another key benefit of being part of the MPO, and this is more of a reoccurring theme that you're going to hear through the presentation, it's local representation for local decision-making, okay? So you're going to hear me talk about MPOs, and then you're going to hear me talk about RPOs. One of the challenges that I think that we face right now is that a good portion of Onslow County is represented by an organization that's out of New Bern. It's part of the Eastern Carolina Council of Government, what we call a rural planning organization. And as we move forward through the presentation, I'll just express to you some of the concerns that I personally have and you may share. So looking back in time, the MPO was created in 1983, and up until 2010, the boundary essentially remained the same. It looked just like this. So it was centered around Jacksonville, and it included everything that was considered urbanized at the time, plus a small growth buffer, I guess is what you would call it. Moving into 2010, we expanded the boundary to include all of the main side of Camp Lejeune and then portions of Sneads Ferry, and that really had to do with all the pressures that were occurring because of military growth at the time. We all remember what that was like at the back gate and on Lejeune Boulevard, Holcomb Boulevard, et cetera. So we expanded the boundary in 2010, but the primary driver of where our planning boundary is the decennial census. And as I mentioned before, we're obligated to accommodate or to plan for everything that's considered urbanized in Onslow County. So once we got the 2010 census results back, we were then obligated to expand the boundary once again. That moved out west towards the county line, including the airport, 53, 111, et cetera. And then we actually ended up encumbering all of the Sneads Ferry area down into Folkestone. If you superimpose some of the undevelopable areas of Onslow County, you can see that a majority of the developable portion of the county is within the MPO area. This is currently where we are today, and the question is, would we like to see the boundary expanded to include all of Onslow County? So the question that you probably have is, well, why should we do that? The map that's in front of you now shows where all the projects are. We've worked for the past 6 or 7 years with DOT to develop, prioritize, and fund a number of projects. And again, Commissioner Buchanan, I can't remember the exact number. It changes every day, but it ends up being over $400 million worth of future investment. Now that's guaranteed investment. The only guarantee we don't have is when exactly is it going to happen. Everything seems to be sliding right these days on the program because of funding issues with DOT, but those are projects that are going to happen. The orange lines, of course, are widening projects or corridor improvements, roadways on new alignment, and then the stars are where we're improving intersections, aviation, bicycle pedestrian projects, et cetera. But one thing I really want to point out to you is the location of those projects specifically. You can see that almost all of them are within the shaded green area that's the MPO boundary. There's only one, and of course that one project is now complete. That's a 17 North bypass. That's the only one that's outside of the MPO planning area currently. I believe there are 2 in Swansboro right now, but the fate of those projects, those are still way out in the future. We don't know if those are going to be guaranteed projects. So reason, success. We've had a lot of success recently in identifying and funding projects. Regional connectivity is a concern for our area. You know, depending on who you ask, we're either close to 200,000 or we're over 200,000. Regardless, it's a lot of people. And of course, we have 2 key military installations here in our area that require regional mobility for completing their mission. If you go back to what I was talking about with the RPO representation out of New Bern, the regional connectivity desires of that area vary significantly for what we're looking for here in Onslow County. meaning they're much more 70 corridor, Highway 70, 264 corridor, et cetera, oriented. In our particular case, I think we're much more Highway 17 and much more Highway 24 oriented. So, having that local representation would kind of bring all the priorities of the county for regional connectivity into one. The Wilmington MPO currently exists in Pender County and has moved north along the 17 corridor. Again, this goes back to the concept of local decision-making for local transportation issues. There's certainly nothing against the Wilmington MPO, but there is the possibility that they could move into Onslow County if, in fact, we don't move the boundary. If we move the boundary, then we're relatively guaranteed that, Onslow County would be represented by Jacksonville MPO. Simplicity. In the eyes of the public, we try to make things as simple as possible, just so that, effective communication, et cetera. But the challenge that we currently face these days is if someone from Holly Ridge, Richlands, or Swansboro calls us, right, even though we're in Onslow County, we're in Jacksonville, we do planning for a lot of Onslow County, unfortunately, we have to tell those folks to call somebody in New Bern. And that really just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to them. It doesn't pass the smell test. So again, expanding the boundary greatly simplifies that communication process. If they have an issue, they can call somebody in Onslow County and we can get them an answer. And then last but not least, we are resourced at a higher level than RPOs. There are no two ways about that. We're staffed at a higher level, generally have a higher level of technical expertise, and I think the results of that are clearly shown on the map here with regard to the success that we've had. So the process, as Jessica mentioned, we've gone to all the municipalities in Onslow County other than the city of Jacksonville. That will be our next stop. All the municipalities signed off on the resolution of intent. We're here in front of the county commissioners today asking for a similar resolution. And I'd like to point out that this resolution is not really binding. It's like I described it before. It is a resolution of intent. And what we wanted to do is get everybody pointed in the same way, in the same direction with these resolutions so that we can then begin the process of negotiating what we call an MOU. So that's essentially the agreement that holds the organization together, talks about who's participating, where the funding comes from, the governance, et cetera. So there's no commitment tonight other than talking, wanting to talk about it into the future. The commitment would come if we actually sign an updated MOU. If that were to occur, it'd have to go to DOT and Federal Highway for approval. Ideally, I think the timeline on this would be probably 6 months out. Outcomes. So MPOs and RPOs are mutually exclusive, so you can't have any overlap. If we were to expand the boundary of the MPO, then the RPO would retract. So for Commissioner Shanahan, you would no longer have to go to New Bern for the meetings, and for Jessica, you wouldn't have to go to the TCC meetings as well. You'd be more than welcome to come talk with us at the MPO, but we wouldn't have to have dual representation. No financial change planned at this time. If there was a financial change, meaning the commitment that the county and the city have to supporting the organization, everyone would have to agree upon that first, and that would be part of the MOU discussion. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is improve the technical support, and just make things happen in Onslow County to benefit our mobility needs. So that concludes my presentation, but I can't wrap it up without plugging the webpage. A lot of the questions that I've answered here tonight, those answers are also on our webpage. We've spent a lot of time and effort in developing that. And if you have some free time, please take a look at it. We've got a great interactive map that shows where all the projects are, kind of overlays them on a satellite image. Also has information regarding traffic counts, just a whole variety of information that might be helpful to you either today or in the future. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and hopefully you'll see positively on the resolution.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second. Any discussion?
One thing I'd like to say, thank you, Anthony, and I've had the fortune to sit on RPO and the MPO, and I sit on the MPO now. But the MPO does more for Onslow County than the RPO does. It's like you said earlier, it's 264, it's 265 up in there, and 70 highway. We don't see them do a whole lot in this area, and want to thank you for what you have done for this community.
Certainly my pleasure. Again, local representation, local decision for local issues. So that's really what we're all about.
Any further?
I would add that our outlying municipalities, Swansboro, Richlands, and Holly Ridge, have absolutely zero representation on the RPO. We're at the southern end of their border, and you talk about connectivity, there's nothing in Onslow County that they're interested in connecting to. So by adding them to our MPO, we're going to be able to give them an opportunity to be represented that they've not had in the past.
Yes, sir. So for the commissioners who either have been, Chairman Bright, or are on the TAC today, I think you've realized the value that we bring and the things that we make happen. I mean, you don't see them on the ground every single day, but there are things moving, and of course, you know that we're very responsive to any questions, concerns that you may have along the way.
Any further? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Sorry to keep you up so late. Next item is Ms. Sharon Russell, the courthouse portrait.
Thank you so much, Chairman Bright and Commissioners. The colleagues and family of attorney Charles S. Lanier have requested to display a portrait of Mr. Lanier in the Onslow County Courthouse. Mr. Lanier served the citizens of Onslow County for over 40 years. He began as a one-person law practice, which later grew into the largest firm in Onslow County and in our 4th Judicial District. He served countless citizens, both rich and poor, on a variety of legal and personal issues throughout his career. In accordance with county policy, a vote of the county commissioners is required. When we put a portrait in the courthouse, the family pays for the costs, and the county has certain guidelines that the portrait must follow, and the family is aware of that. And I believe a very patient family of the late Charles Lanier are here tonight. You guys want to wave or stand up? And a very, very well-behaved small blonde child has been waiting patiently for this particular item. We would respectfully request the Board of Commissioners' approval to display the portrait of Mr. Charles S. Lanier in the Onslow County Courthouse.
I would like to make that motion, and the reason I want to make that motion, it's a privilege and an honor for me to make the motion for Charlie, because he's been a good friend of mine for many years, and his family is here today, and it'd be my honor and privilege to make that motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I will say it's a pleasure to be a part of putting your dad's portrait in the courthouse. I think he was very credible to Onslow County, served us very well. My condolences to you in his passing. Nothing but respect from us and the board. So thank you for being here tonight and being a part of us doing the approval for that portrait to be placed there. No better place than Onslow County Courthouse. That's where he worked, that's where he served, that's what he loved.
I'm sure he would love to be able to stare at me every day I'm trying a case.
I believe, Andrew, he would love to do that.
I'll include audio on this.
In case you didn't know, Andrew is an attorney too, practicing here in Onslow County and following in his dad's footsteps. Thank you. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, folks. Sorry you had to wait so late.
Hey, it's worth waiting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Capital Improvement Project, C, that will be Ms. Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I have before you a capital improvement project approval that involves our community college. And as you'll notice, Mr. Heatherly is in the audience to answer questions. As required by North Carolina General Statute 115D-1, the Onslow County Board of Commissioners provides funding to Coastal Carolina Community College for capital improvement projects using funds appropriated during fiscal year 1819 and during fiscal year 1920. The college has started a project to extend Academic Drive from University Drive towards Faculty Drive for a distance of approximately 1/4 of a mile. The proposed roadway will be a curb and gutter section, and it includes bicycle lanes and a sidewalk. The original project was $2,013,961. The college would like to add an additional option to improve parking lot N6 out at the college, and that adds an additional $870,950. The project total of $2,884,911 is what's before you tonight. Importantly, no new funds are being requested with this approval. This is simply to improve a capital project that's going to utilize funds that have already been appropriated. The Board of Commissioners is respectfully asked to consider the use of these previously appropriated funds to improve Academic Drive and parking lot N6, and if approved, to authorize myself, interim county manager, to sign the appropriate documents. And again, if Mr. Heatherly would like to approach the podium, since he's been patiently waiting as well, he can answer any questions that you might have.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think the parking lot was full today. I think the day was opening day.
That it was.
Indeed.
And I feel sure you saw lots of need for improved parking and such, so absolutely.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything for Mr. Heatherly to ask him, or? We got a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank
All
you.
opposed? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, could I just, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, our faculty and staff, and especially our students, I cannot commend you and your predecessors enough for all that you have done in support of your community college over the years. Most people do not realize that the last state-funded facility on our campus was the Math Science Building, which is well over 10 years ago that was constructed. Since that time, many capital improvements have been realized, but it could not have been done without your support. We would not have the Culinary Arts Building. We would not have the greenhouse, which the biology faculty have requested for 30 years. We would not have the ISS building, which is on our campus now. I just cannot say enough about the support that you have provided. And I don't think most of our citizens in Onslow County realize just what this community college has become because of the support that you have given. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item D, proclamation resolution, preliminary resolution for the installment financing agreement of West Central Elementary School. Mr. Dave McCole, our finance director, will present that.
Good evening, Board of Commissioners. Yes, the item you have before you is a preliminary resolution for the financing of West Central Elementary School. The resolution states that the county is considering entering into an installment financing agreement for the purpose of financing the construction of West Central Elementary School, an amount not to exceed $33 million. It should be noted that the capital ordinance was approved for an amount of $30.3 million, so it's below the not to exceed amount of $33 million. The county would acquire interest in the real and personal property of West Central Elementary School for the purpose of using it as collateral for the financing that we plan on doing in February. The county has done its due diligence in considering the need and cost for the project. The resolution also states that it will designate the interim county manager, the finance officer, and the county attorney as representatives of the county to file an application to the LGC for approval of the financing, and are authorized to take such actions as may be advisable in connection with the negotiations of such agreements and the development of related financings, The board hereby requests, it would also state that the board requests the local government commission to approve such installment financing under Article 8 of the Chapter 159 of the General Statutes of North Carolina. It would also confirms and recommends the selection of the parties and professionals listed in the resolution. There's 2 parties listed. One is DEC. They are acting as our financial advisors for this transaction, and also Robinson, Bradshaw, and Hinshaw. They are acting as for representing our needs as it represents the bond counsel for this financing. It also calls for a public hearing to be held January 22nd. It gives authority to the clerk to the Board of Commissioners to post notice of the public hearing in the Jacksonville Daily News. And with that said, I respectfully request approval of the preliminary resolution for the installment financing agreement of West Central Elementary School on behalf of the county, and give authority to the clerk of the Board of Commissioners to post notice of the public hearing in the Jacksonville Daily News. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have concerning this financing and this resolution.
Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions for Mr. McCole? Been a long time coming. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. McCole. Item 7, consent agenda, which we almost missed. We don't have anything that was moved. Public comment under item 8.
No one has signed up for the second public comment period. Chairman Bright.
Okay, we'll move on to item 9, which would be manager's comment.
I just want to say briefly tonight, thank you again for allowing me to serve in this role, all of you, and we're looking forward to a very exciting new year in 2020. I'm going to limit any other comments to one more thing. One of our newest employees, we have a tremendous staff, but one of our newest employees, our new public health director, is out in the audience, Ms. Chrissy Richmond Hoover, and if you would wave, just wave to everyone. She's one of our newest on board, and we appreciate all of our directors and the hard work that they do every day. Thank you.
Any further from you?
Nothing else from me tonight. Thank you so much, Chairman Bright.
We had a lot of meetings this week. I didn't know if you had some other items or not.
I did have quite a few, but I'm going to let all of you cover some of those, I think.
Okay, we'll move on now to commissioner comments. I will start with Commissioner Royce Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be short, but I do want to mention again Onslow Strong Disaster Recovery Alliance, which is an alliance of nonprofit organizations that are working to help people recover from Hurricane Florence that fell between the cracks. And I wanted to mention one particular affiliate organization, the United Methodist Disaster Recovery Center, which provided a total of $1,520,457.57 worth of assistance to Onslow County citizens in 2019. They had 65 teams from across the United States and Canada that came into Onslow County to help people recover from Hurricane Florence. About 1,097 volunteers that worked 41,072 hours. I want to challenge our commissioners. I'm going to be at a meeting next week where we're going to talk about the unmet needs of our citizens of Onslow County. And I'm going to set up a day for us to go out and help people that are still recovering from Hurricane Florence. And I'll let you know what that date is when I can get it scheduled, and I would encourage all of you to come out with me, and let's spend a few hours helping some people that are still in need in Onslow County. That's all, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Foster?
Well, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and very excited that we've accomplished quite a lot in the last year. I think one of the most significant things is the positive working relationship we've developed with the Board of Education. I think that's been instrumental with committees that have been put together. Lots of success there. I don't know if we can say enough about one of the premier community colleges in the state of North Carolina. And if we need more of our kids to walk off our stages in the high schools and into the doors of Coastal, and that in itself takes care of a lot of student loan debt as they move out, because I don't know that you can get much better of an education for the cost at Coastal Carolina Community College. I remember back in the 80s as I come through the schools, it was foresee your future. And I don't know if anyone in the room remembers that slogan, but dadgummit, that's pretty good. Foresee your future, and then you move right into the next realm, and the additions that's been there, the programs that are there, the opportunities for people in Onslow County is immense. And that is just something that I cannot quit speaking about. I always love to say, and I said it a year ago, is Onslow County is a great place to live, work, and raise a family, and it doesn't get any better than that. Last thing I'll say is we got lots of military personnel packing up, boarding planes, and headed across. And only thing I tell you about that is keep those men and women in your thoughts and prayers, keep their families in your thoughts and prayers. You know, for the first time in my life, I think the skin in the game is a little bit different with my child over there. So I just want to make sure that as we go away from here tonight, God bless America, God bless North Carolina and Onslow County, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Knapp?
Just a couple of things. First, thank you guys for coming out. And it's a new year for the commissioners. We've got another whole year ahead of us, and with an election coming up, and there's going to be some exciting things going on. And I want to thank all the commissioners on the board as well. I think we've worked well together, and we're pushing forward. We've had some disagreements, and we got a long road ahead of us. We got the budget coming up, and we're going to be discussing that. We're going to be looking at the budget clearly, and looking at the best way to fund and to do what we need to do for the county. So just keep that in mind. It's going to be a difficult task. Everybody's attention is on the budget, and I know we have some meetings scheduled for next week along with our workshop, so it will be interesting. And the only other thing I want to say is that I know most people kind of just shrug it off. A lot of people, they don't really follow the news, but to me, it's real important that, you know, that you monitor the news as far as the killing of General Soleimani. I'm a student of international affairs. I've known about this guy for some time, just reading articles and research on him, and he was a bad egg. Whether you agree with it or not, the point is, like Commissioner Foster stated, he's got a little more skin in the game, and I have some skin in the game as well with friends, and both in the Army and in the Marine Corps that are deploying there. And we need to keep them in our prayers that this does not escalate into something that gets out of control. Again, whether you believe the action was right or not, that doesn't matter. What matters is that our troops that are out there defending us, all the Marines, we live on the biggest amphibious base on the East Coast. And the majority of my friends are Marines or retired Marines, and you know I have respect for them. And so just keep them in your thoughts and prayers and be as supportive as you can to them, because we've got an uncertain future ahead of us. And hopefully we can get through this and our country can keep walking. But thank you.
Commissioner Price?
Have a good evening and a blessed 2020.
Thank you.
Wow.
You guys be safe.
Was that Commissioner Price? He really is leaving us.
Commissioner, Vice Chairman Buchanan?
Wow. Well, Tim took most of my stuff a while ago. When you go last, like next to the chairman, it's kind of interesting. David, thank you for what you do. The college, I mean, I've been very fortunate to work over there 2 or 3 times for you, and I enjoy it. And Tim said it all. I mean, that's a place to start. And our students are over there too. And I don't know, a lot of you know that, but they have early college. That's over there too. Tim might have forgot that piece, but that piece is over there. It's interesting to see those high school students in our campus. It's really interesting. Sharon, what do I say? I say it every time we go here, but this week has been interesting. I mean, today has been an interesting day. Jack and I have been in meetings at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and now 6 o'clock. So we've been pretty busy today, but I'm not going to take his thunder. I know that I've seen him write it down on his paper there, so I'm going to leave that alone, the one piece. But David, thank you for being here. And Barry, thank you. The thunder I'm fixing to let him have, I'm going to let him have that thunder right now. But thank everybody for being here. Jack?
They always copy my notes.
I just happen to see it.
Anyway, thank you, Barry, for coming tonight, Superintendent of Onslow County Schools, and Steve Myers, our buildings and grounds and security and whatever else they can have you do over there. Thank you for being here. Sharon has been working, Russell has been working very hard on our budget. She's been working since 1st of December, I think, and we are very close now with the Board of Education and coming up with a funding mechanism that everybody has pretty much looked at, and we're going to have a meeting Monday to discuss that further, and we will have future meetings with the Board of Education to finalize that. So we wanted to get ahead of that, and we didn't want to wait till the last minute to do a budget, which is so vast. 80% of our budget is mandated, and the schools is a big part of the mandate, but we have come to some real good conclusions with Sharon and Barry and the finance team working together, and I think you've been meeting sometimes every week, but 2 times a week. So that just tells you the commitment that we have from our interim county manager, Sharon Russell. I did want to mention one thing. My condolences goes out for the family of General Kelly, the Commandant of the Marine Corps that passed away. He was 91. I had the pleasure of meeting him and working with him during the Beirut Memorial Ceremony. He was a gentleman and a super warrior. He devoted his whole life, and his whole family was involved in the military, and just did commendable service. So rest in peace, General Kelly, and thank you for your service. And thank you folks for coming tonight. Thank you for being here, participating in our meeting. Thank you for the ones that spoke. And I would now say have a safe trip home, and I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.